Okay, so painting 2 class, here's some things I need you to do in your sketchbook this week with your watercolor paint. This can happen anytime this week, but it'd be better if it was done before you start painting your current project. So one thing I need you to do is work on a value scale with the black watercolor. You're going to use pure black watercolor here. Maybe a tiny bit of water added to it would be okay. Add some water each time, make it lighter and lighter each time. Do at least 5 steps of the value scale from black to light gray, and remembering that the white of your watercolor paper is your lightest value. Do the same thing with gradation. So just put your watercolor here, add water, work it over here until it disappears. Try to make that nice and smooth. Then I want you to do some gray patches like this, darker gray, some lighter gray, and then once that is dry, I want you to add some color over it. Even in this really dark one, some color, some yellow over that gives it a nice glow. So you can see what it looks like with the gray scale underneath and the color on top. I also want you to try masking if you have masking tape at home, or really any kind of tape would work. Masking tape will work better than something like duct tape because if it sticks too much, it's going to tear your paper. So the thing you want to try is putting some masking tape down, pressing it down on one edge at least, and painting up against that. Then when you peel the tape off, try to peel it at an angle away from where the paint is. Nice and slow so it's not going to tear the surface of the paper. Now, if you do this in your sketchbook, it might be more likely to tear the surface of your paper. On your watercolor paper, it will be less likely. So your masking tape now taken off, you have a nice clean hard edge that might be hard to do when you are painting freehand. So try to use masking tape in some cases, especially on long straight edges of a building. I want you to draw a simple building like this. It can be a cube or it can be a rectangular prism like this, but just draw that simple form. Before you add any detail with the pen, I want you to shade it. So what I did was I had the whole thing painted yellow, then a wash of blue on this front side, and a little bit darker wash of blue on the right side to give it some shading. Other than that, after that dries, I want you to add some ink detail. If you have a Sharpie like this, ultra fine or even extra fine, that's okay. If you have a micron pen, that's even better. If you don't have either of those, just try using whatever you have. And virtual students, by the way, in the secure entrance this week, you can come in and pick up a pen just like this. It would be great for this project. So if you don't have one of those, you can come and get one. So then try adding some texture. Maybe there's like little bricks and stuff on here. Maybe um, windows. Now you can add some little textures and whatever. I've already done a lot of that. Windows. Okay, most of you are going to have some kind of windows in your, I guess all of you, in your project somewhere. So when you draw a window, try making it look maybe kind of like these. It doesn't have to be very detailed. They can be kind of scribbly, kind of scratchy. And notice how each window is kind of different. And they're not perfectly in line. They're not perfectly rectangular, and that's fine. If they're on a side of a building, then make sure it slants the same direction as the roof line. These 3 windows at the bottom here, I drew in there just to show you how not to do windows. Okay, don't just do a rectangle. All right, that looks kind of dumb. These other ones with some more scribbly shading and a vague rectangular shape are a lot more interesting. And then, I don't know, this is like ivy or some kind of stuff growing on the building. So whatever details you want to add, just throw some stuff in there. Then do a wash of a color. especially if it's a darker color, it's going to show up better. Do a wash. While that's still wet, I want you to sprinkle some salt on there. Just a little bit of salt. If table salt is what you have, that should work. That's what this is. If you have a coarser kind of salt, that works even better. Basically what the salt does is that each little grain of salt soaks up the color. So the color on the outside of each grain of salt kind of gets sucked towards the grain, and it highlights that little speckly spot. If you have a coarser salt, then those light spots, like you can see really well here, those light spots will be bigger. So this has all the salt kind of rubbed off, and this is what's left behind. This could come in handy somewhere on this project if you want kind of a speckly texture in something that you paint, whether it's with the black and gray washes or the color washes. And last thing is masking with rubber cement. All right, so I've got some rubber cement here, and basically you can just brush over it quickly. And you'll notice that the places where the rubber cement is are not, the paint is not sticking to it. It's not as much. Oh, and look at that nice little message. I promise I didn't do that. Somebody did this hidden message for me. Just kidding, I did that. Anyway, once that dries, then you would take your fingers and rub off the rubber cement carefully. Make sure it's totally dry first. But when you rub that rubber cement off, then you have a nice clean white spot where the paint did not stick to. If you don't have rubber cement at home, then don't worry about doing this. At school, we've got some if you want to use it for the hybrid students, virtual students. Again, if you don't have the rubber cement, then don't worry about it on this assignment. So those things, I need you to do all of those things except for the rubber cement if you don't have that. Do these things at home on 1 or 2 pages of your sketchbook, get that photographed, and get that turned in.